pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Nerf Secrets Revealed. And now, what I'd like to simply talk about at this point is the fact that, well, I've already mentioned a lot about the shell blasters and the bolt blasters, but why don't I go on ahead and talk about more with the shell blasters in general. The first big thing about the shell blasters was the fact that the Nerf Sledge Fire was a pretty big deal when it comes to a new innovation. It brought along shells into the question. And within years, we were actually able to get some better shells out there. With the appearance of the Spring Thunder, however, it was a whole new concept. We were actually able to get ourselves shells with different types of ammo that we could put into them. As far to our knowledge here, any Nerfer who owns a Spring Thunder would know the fact that it comes with several different types of shells. There's shells that exist for elite darts, shells for mega darts, which would relate to a slug, buckshot shells, which would fire rival rounds, as well as shells that can utilize boomco darts. So I'd say that's a pretty big branch out in terms of how you can use a pretty big variety of different ammo that you can utilize with the same blaster. And it turns out that idea has actually spanned to just about every other Nerf blaster that uses shells. The Trilogy and Shell Strike are the most recent types of shell blasters out there, and it turns out that we were actually able to get shells within this same exact concept to utilize whatever ammo type that we would want to use. There actually do exist ammo types of shells out there in different color schemes that you can buy on eBay, for example. They were able to 3D print shells for the Trilogy and Shell Strike that can also fire elite darts, mega darts, rival rounds, and some others out there. They were even able to make shells for the Sledge Fire. Being that the Sledge Fire had different shells in comparison, because it was a different generation of a blaster back in the day, and this new generation with these types of, well, thicker shells, for the most part, and the fact that you can actually buy shell kits in Walmart or the like with an attachment that you can put on the top rail, I'd say that's a pretty big idea right there. A pretty big one in general. But in terms of shell kits in general, I'd say there's a lot that they're going for. But for the most part, I'm just not entirely optimistic on the whole idea itself. Maybe it is in fact a pretty big way to go. But who knows if we're going to get more shell blasters, and if they do in fact have different types of shells, then I'd say these third-party makers out there that actually make these kind of shells out there for different types of ammo out there would probably be deemed an obsolete idea, as Nerf would probably cash in on the idea pretty quickly here. But who knows if we're ever going to get more shell blasters, seeing as the Shell Strike is the only elite blaster that we have here today, and that it's the only other shell blaster that uses these types of shells, these newer generation shells, other than the Trilogy, which was released the year before them. So that's pretty much all I got to talk about based on shell kits themselves and the different types of blasters that uses them. And not to mention, we got third-party makers out there that uses this type of idea from the Spring Thunder creator that you can use different shells to hold different types of ammo in it. And that's a pretty big concept right there. A pretty big payoff as well. There are lots of people who would actually be crazy for this. But who knows what will happen in the future. What Nerf try to do with this? I have no idea. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.